Hey everybody, welcome to our next episode of Two Dads, One Car. I'm so excited for our next guest. His name is Doug. We played tennis together for the last year or so. It's great COVID activity, by the way. Doug is a father of a 15-month-old son, and we're going to get talking about fatherhood and everything in between. So hang tight. I'm just about to reach his place, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. Take care. Hello.
I've never ridden in a Tesla before. This is such a good surprise.
Good seeing you, man.
How's it going?
I got the hair gelled, everything lined up.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to be on video. I love that you have the Yeti in here too. This is so smart.
I just want to make it easy, I have the Yeti.
Oh, you got the computer down there. I thought the Tesla was running it. I'm like, it does everything.
I mean, that would be next level Elon Musk, right? If the Tesla ran everything.
Yeah, people just start like using Teslas as their podcast studio. Well, that's what's happening. That's what you're doing, actually.
Exactly, it is. I haven't been sponsored yet, but I'm hopeful to be sponsored. I forgot to tell Doug this might be on video, so he's like, Steve, I gotta put on some hair gel. You look fine.
I put in hair gel though. I was literally like, it was just, I got the kid off to daycare this morning, or grandma care. And so I had much time. It's also payroll day today, so I was just like,
oh my gosh.
Well, you're dead.
Yeah.
You work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking time. I did a brief intro to you earlier at the start, but maybe you could provide us with your fatherhood CV if that helps.
My fatherhood CV, yes. Well, my name is Doug, and I have a 15-month-old named Jonah Jackson Beech, and I still feel completely overwhelmed and inexperienced. That's probably. I am not qualified for this job. I feel that's probably my bad job interview.
Well, thank you for being part of the podcast. And I know you and I were exchanging ideas when I first started this off. And now that we're on season 2, now that I actually have like a living baby in hand, the question's going to be more about that. So if I may, I'd like to start off my first question is really, what are the unspoken truths of fatherhood?
The unspoken truths?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think my brain jumps to like there's a lot more biology happening. Like I should not love this little guy as much as I do. Like it is a trick. It reminds me of like my first girlfriend in high school. Like I should not be this in love with somebody I barely know. So there's definitely a biology element, I think. What would be a good example to explain that? Well, like I had a friend that was like just a single kid, and he got like lots of things from his parents, and I was always like bugging his parents because his parents and me were good friends, and I was always like, when I have a child, I am not going to spoil the child as you have because you've seen some of the results, and they're like, well, we'll see, and I've always thought that I'd be like, you don't give the kid everything, you make him earn it, and I'm going to try my best to do it. But I gotta check myself because I just want to give this kid everything, and it's you don't know until you have a child. So the advice you got is probably the same advice I got.
Oh, I love the fact that you brought that up. I haven't heard that one before. Actually, there is some kind of biological trick going on, right? I guess they want to perpetuate the species.
Yeah, and well, we had the pandemic and everything, and so like. Jack was pregnant during that time when we were still in like the unknown and we didn't know what was going on, and like you just feel like this greater responsibility all of a sudden, and it comes out of nowhere.
And you touched upon trying hard not to spoil and trying hard not to give everything. It's hard. Like what's your thinking behind that? Is it? I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Well, I don't want him to be a shitty kid. It's like the biggest thing, right? Yeah. Right? Like, my buddy sent me a video by Jordan Peterson, and he was like, I really dug this video, and I don't know if I dug all the points, but the one point that I really stuck out is like, your big responsibility is to make sure that you have a kid that you like, right? And I want to make sure I have a kid that I like. Like, I don't want to have like some child that I'm just like, what is he doing? So I guess that a lot of motivation is selfish for me. I really want to enjoy my relationship with Jonah.
I absolutely resonate with that, right? Like, don't have a shitty kid. Like, you don't want to have a shitty kid, one that's spoiled and just like crying left and right. And,
no resiliency, and
And those are the kind of themes I want to explore more really in this second season. When you come from a place of the ability to provide for your kids, how do you, this word resiliency, man, that's a deep word. Like, how does one instill that if there's a way?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, when I think about my personal resiliency, it's a lot about, like, my brain goes to a lot of hardships that I overcame. And then it's like, but I don't want to put hardships in front of my son. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe there needs to be some hardships with less consequences, like perceived hardships. Like something I've been talking to Jack about is like we're putting away for his college fund or whatever he decides to do in the future fund. And of course, in Canada, we get the RSPs or like matching the $500 a year or whatever. And I was like, even though we're like saving for the future, we are never telling him that we are saving for his education. Like, make him earn his education first. This can just be a happy surprise. So there's no way I'm showing him this podcast until after he's done college.
Where are these millions of dollars?
So I have shares of stuff? No.
Bitcoin?
We should get him a Bitcoin. Maybe not. We'll get him a percentage of a Bitcoin. You do not have a full Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about hardships, and I resonate with that absolutely, right? When you're growing up, when you look back on your childhood, if there's any like distinct moments of hardship that you can think about, like what would one or two be if you were to share?
Hardships. Well, I have an interesting childhood because like I moved out at a really young age. I moved out when I was like 15, and I have like semi-foster parents that I grew up, like, that I spent a lot of my family time with, but I also have my biological parents, but that was a big confusing thing to wrap my head around. And I guess when I think about resiliency and overcoming hardships, like my brother and I didn't really have access to very much financial resources. And so we were always like running lemonade stands or doing puppet shows or doing newspaper routes, trying to get that dollar bill so we can enjoy beautiful automobiles like this. Sorry, I can't get over this. Like, I'm usually the driver too. I'm not usually the passenger. It's so relaxing to be on this side. Like, I drive Victoria Street all the time to actually a tennis court over here that I play when it's summertime, and I never get to look. I'm always just trying not to kill people.
Yeah, this car has a little too predictive. Like sometimes when I'm just off the lane a little bit, it'll just like jerk me back. I'm like, whoa, is this the car? Is this me?
Steven, you can drive better.
Exactly. I think it's just monitoring every single action. I know, thanks for that compliment. And I mean, I love this ride. It's just so fun. When you brought up that story, and I'm so glad you shared that actually, because now I see, like, dude, you are a hustler. I love it. Like, Doug is one of the favorite people I love playing tennis with. Like, he runs to every ball, he hits it back, and he does it with a smile. I'm like, you know what? I can't fault the guy. Like, this guy is, like, stellar.
I'm just trying to survive at tennis. Man, I was telling my wife's name's Jack this morning, or yesterday. I was like, I kind of want to go back and play hockey because, like, I started playing tennis because of the pandemic. And then I started playing golf because of my friends are really into golf. And when I first started playing tennis, I thought it was the hardest sport that ever existed. Like, I was hitting home runs all the time, like outside of the courts. Not in a good way. Not home runs like great shots. Like home runs because I couldn't like hit a shot into the court. And so the first year of tennis was awful. And the drills where we met really, really have helped out. But then I tried learning to play golf, and now tennis just is so easy. I'm not saying that I'm good at it by any means, but like the learning curve on tennis versus golf, like the room for error is so much greater. Like, I kind of just want to go back to playing hockey and do something that I know that I've played for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on sports, like, do you have aspirations, like, or should we have aspirations for our kids who want to do particular sports? Like, you, Jack, thought about that or talked about that? Or I know 15-month-old, they probably just learning how to walk, I guess. But
is Avery in tennis drills yet?
Yes, catch the ball.
We did actually. We had access to a sports check sale, and so my wife bought tennis balls and a tennis racket and like ski pants. I think I'm gonna. Like, I would love if he's athletic, so I'm going to let him try everything. I've always had it in my head, like, in one of my classes, we helped out a gymnastics school, and they were just totally sold me that, like, no matter what sports your kids are interested, the base of gymnastics is really, really powerful for any kid. So I feel like I will take him to some kind of gymnastics school and then let him decide if he likes sports or not. But at least he'll be able to move his body and understand his body, so he has a chance of success. I would love it if he loved sports, because I would go watch them all. I'd help him. I'd do all the practicing with him. But I can't force him to love something that I love, right?
Well, I look forward to you starting a tennis school and happy to.
I will not be starting a tennis school. I will be paying the tennis school.
You talked about decision making, and I guess like when you're going through decision making with your wife, I mean, now there's always like different aspects of how to raise your child. Like, how do you and your wife like discuss this? How do you guys navigate? There must be times when you have different views, and how does that look like?
Yeah, that.
Is it like a arm wrestling? Is it like thumb wrestling? Is it like, okay, like, I'd be curious to know.
Choosing his name was arm wrestling, or was almost like MMA, like choosing the name took a lot of discussion. But when it comes to like raising him, so far it seemed pretty organic. Like there's been so much, there's been more than we can learn.
Yeah. And
so basically we're just learning and sharing. And just saying it, actually, maybe I haven't given that enough credit. Like, because that could totally be an arms race, right? Like, I have a business-minded based wife as well, which is like, it's great to have a really smart, intelligent wife until she decides that she has a different path for you.
Here's a PowerPoint deck.
Yeah.
Here's my supporting arguments.
Here's all the reasons why you're wrong, and I'm going to leave them with you. And I'm like, well, I have some points. I don't need to hear them. No, I haven't. That's a really good point. I think it's been great, actually, with the decision making about trying to, empower Jonah. And we've really separated the duties. It's almost been like we work a bit together too. And we find that where there's a separation of duties, like sure, there's like, we're always working on communication. Like it's not perfect.
No,
it escalates sometimes, but for deciding for him, she's into sports, I'm into sports. I think we're kind of on the same page. She comes from a family that's so supportive, and they're all about the prosperity of their grandchildren, and so I think that's been like pushed into her as well. So I think we're both on board.
Well, it's kind of like, having a child is one part of the relationship, right? There's even before that, I'm sure, like dating, marriage, like it's these skills that you've been adapting to and learning from each other from the first time you got started dating. And so it's so great to hear and know that, communication, as cheesy as it sounds like it is a key base to it.
Yeah, and it's not like we have perfect communication by any means, but yeah, we seem to have more patience around discussing Jonah's future than our own futures. We're getting through it, but like we both have pretty busy schedules, so there is conflicting, and then that you throw in a baby, and whoa, life changes quite a bit.
Kyle, one of our mutual friends, interviewed him for podcast episode 4, and he joked about creating a Google Calendar. Do you guys check in like once a week, every other day, like when it comes to scheduling?
When it comes to scheduling?
Yeah, on WhatsApp, do you book through Calendly?
No, well, we've been so lucky that we've both been able to work from home, and I've been on parental leave from my job. So basically, my wife and I were off for a year, and then she went back to work in November, and that got, like, it sucked for me, to be honest. Well, I felt like it sucked for me. It sucked for her too, because like getting back into work versus being able to spend time with the family is hard on her, and like she's got a very tough job, but she's doing it from home. So when she went back in November, that's about the same time that we planned for Jonah to start doing daycare.
Yeah.
And you haven't got to daycare land yet.
No.
It's basically, and COVID has made it so much worse, because basically your kid goes to daycare to get sick all the time. And so when he started going to daycare in November, right, because I had the flexible schedule, I became full-time daycare, right? Because not that Jack wasn't helping, but Jack is full-time on calls in another room from, maybe 6 or 7 in the morning till like 5 at night. So I'm sitting there trying to like, do all the meals and diapers and, trying to make an area of play,
Right.
and sneezes and snot bubbles and all these, like, when your child hasn't been sick yet?
She was for a little bit.
Okay.
Not too serious. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you've seen them start to realize what mucus is, and you're like, what is this stuff? Like it was an amazing experience the first time. Then it's just a pain in the ass, really.
No, I get it. And thanks for that highlight when it comes to daycares and things to kind of expect. You know, as someone like me who's moving into this next phase, I suppose, you know, past the 6-month mark,
Yeah.
anything that you would tell yourself, like, as you emerge into this, if it is the next phase, or anything that you would do again or do differently or double down on as you reflect?
Yeah. So the big thing that I would double down on is what I sold you guys all at tennis lessons would be sleep training. I don't know if you and Kyle talked about that already, or if you're doing it, or if it's working or not. But luckily for us, sleep training went so well. Lots of parents told us not to tell their parents, so I'm sorry, parents, if you're having a tough time. But yeah, starting at like 3 months, he started sleeping through the night, and he slept through the night. Like when he's sick, he wakes up here and there, but like we've been getting full night's sleep since he was 3 months old. And that was a book. I sent you guys the PDF. I don't even remember what the book's called anymore, to be honest. But it was a system, and basically you can break that system down into 2 pages. And I would double down on that. Like, it just works so well for us. And at first there was a lot of pain because you can't use soothers or anything where you'd have to be involved in them putting themselves back to sleep. And so basically, the big picture is just a system to train your kid to fall asleep on their own, and it's worth the couple weeks of pain and arguments with your significant other, because you're so used to being there every second, and then you get into this place where you're like, nope, he can cry for a little bit, and it's the first time you really don't try to help. Yeah, it's you need your wife or your husband or your partner, your significant other, to be on board, because we almost broke.
Oh yeah, right.
We almost broke.
Oh, thanks for that highlight on doubling down on sleep training. Anything else that you double down on, or you give advice to yourself at this juncture?
The only other advice I give to myself, which I think a lot of grandparents are going to be telling their parents anyways, is just to really love that cuddly, young, they can't move time. Like, you're overwhelmed, so you're thinking like all this stuff's new, you're learning every single day, you're trying to do food and stuff, but there's so many moments in their first 6 months to a year where they're just cute and cuddly and they just want to be loved, and you get to hold them. And now, once they get mobility and they start walking and jumping and stepping on your private parts, right?
I was like, oh.
No, that happened to me this morning, right? Like, it's like I used to just cuddle in the morning and feed him. And now it is not that. It is, oh, there's toys over there, there's this happening, where's mom? Like, it's just they're so curious and they want to do so many things that you aren't their biggest interest all the time anymore. And that disappears right away. So just in the craziness, you really got to find some moments of gratitude to appreciate like that moment, because they turn from babies to little human beings that have opinions. It feels like overnight. Yeah.
Well, I really resonate with that. No, thank you, Doug. Yeah, you're right. When they can't move, they're like, you're stuck with me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to put them in the chair. And go to, I'm just going to go to the kitchen for a second. I'll be right back. Then you get back and they're there. And now they're running through the house and opening your cupboards and trying to climb. And you're like, is that attached to the wall? I don't know.
I guess, like, in the midst of like all this, like this chaos, right? Like, how do you yourself? I mean, you're incredibly level-headed guy. How do you? There must be times you're like, oh my god, how do you maintain your patience during those periods?
I don't know. I don't know. Breathing, meditation, yoga. I try everything. I don't know. I can be level-headed for a while.
Yeah.
But I have my moments. Like, I lost my head like just 2 days ago, not because of the family. I haven't lost the family. For some reason, I'm able to manage that. But like sometimes with business stuff, I'm just like, things you can't control. I'm just like, how is this happening? So, I don't know. That wasn't a very good answer. That was a bunch of excuses, I think.
No. I think it's a great highlight. And, really, this podcast is not meant to shine in perfection anywhere. Like, I feel like as I'm going through this process, like, parenting is one thing that no one's ever taught properly. No one's ever mastered or figured it out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not until your grandparents are like, oh, I gotta figure it out. But then by then you're like a grandparent.
Do you? I don't know. Do you know what? The level-headedness, I think, for me, it was finding an outlet, which was sports.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was something that I would double down again. Like, when I first had Jonah, when we both had Jonah, I guess, or when my wife had Jonah, she was very less flexible, not very accommodating to me doing, like, tennis drills or going, like, it was COVID, too, so there was, like, this whole fear thing going on about, like, we didn't have as much information back then, there was no vaccinations. But I really stuck to my guns. Like, I was like, I can't play hockey, so I wasn't playing hockey with my buddies because I was just worried about Jonah, and it was like kind of felt selfish. But finding an outlet where you can get away from your wife and your child and do something you enjoy, even if it's just like once or twice a week for a couple hours, like don't give that shit up. Yeah. If it's reading a book or running by the seawall, like it's better for your family to be away for a while and like get your brain back and then relax, because oh man, burnout's a real thing, and if you get burnt out, you're gonna screw everybody.
That was so well said, Doug. That was a gem. Like that was a gem of a response there.
All right, it's seen.
But really on, like I'm still.
Is there any chance you want to just grab coffee really quick?
Oh yes.
Yeah, there's McDonald's right there.
Coffee.
Do you want one?
Yeah, I'll grab coffee.
Or do you want Starbucks? Or do you want?
We'll do coffee.
Okay.
Great. But we'll grab coffee for sure. I mean, that was a gem of a response, and I think for that, we're going to go on a coffee break. We'll be right back after we grab the coffee, because let you guys percolate.
Yeah, percolate on that.
All right, so we're back.
We're back.
We're back. No coffee in hand because there's a plumbing issue at McDonald's. Oh well.
The world, the universe was telling us something about staying uncaffeinated.
Exactly. So if I could pivot really to the last theme of the show, we talked about, unspoken truths. You talked about communication, and you really talked about this last part. My God, that was like a knowledge bomb, right?
You're too kind.
Like,
I don't know how you're driving and keeping track of all this conversation.
The Tesla is really driving.
Yeah.
The car is just like going.
Okay, that's cool. That is cool.
I want to go deeper into this last comment. It's really on identity and having time for yourself. And you spoke about really ensuring that tennis was your avenue and really sticking to your guns. Have you seen instances of those who haven't done that, and what has happened, or what really drove you? Hey, this is really important to me. Like, was there some examples of other friends, or what was the?
I don't have too many examples, right? I saw people, like, of course, like, people are sacrificing for their kids. I just know in my personal circle now, because we have a couple of my friends that, Brett has just had a kid, and some of my friends from the island, and we're pretty good at, like, making sure, like, that we're communicating this to each other, that, like, hey, come on, no, you guys, like, well, it's not just us, it's also our wives that need to have, times with their friends, times away from the kid.
Yeah, and I guess really that the intent of that thinking is just to ensure that we are, when we are good ourselves, like, we're much better for others around. It sounds like, you got a good thinking and framework and mindset behind this, which I want to commend you on.
Well, thank you. I do feel like I have the greatest in-laws in the entire planet. So Jack's parents have made it, like, I don't know, like, how much tougher it would have been without them, because, like, even when she was pregnant, her mom was cooking meals, bringing it over all the time, right? Like, after we had Jonah, they were coming, and now they've been doing daycare for 2 days a week. Like, they're going to transition, I think, the start of April, so he'll be in full-time daycare. But giving us the support when we get back into work has been, like, they say, like, raising a kid takes a community, and COVID didn't allow much of it. Like, we got the first 6 months we were by ourselves.
Oh my God.
And so, like, there was nothing. Like, they didn't meet the grandparents. It was like window waves or whatever, right? Because it was literally like at the peak fear moment. You know what I mean? So I think, well, how did I figure it out? Was I figured out how to pick a really great wife that had a really great set of parents.
That is the key to success.
That's right.
If you don't have in-laws, just adopt in-laws somewhere.
Yeah. Adopt. Like, make sure you meet your wife's parents or your significant other's parents. Yeah, I wish it went that deep, but I do remember, like, when we first started dating, that it was a big plus on Jack's side that her parents were so, well, like, open armed. Like, I never felt like it was like, oh, who is this guy? He's not part of our culture. My wife is Cantonese, and so they have there's a whole part of the culture that I had no understanding, like all the family dim sums and, you know, but yeah, they just welcomed me in right away, and then, like, have just been unbelievable. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Lots of support, lots of help is the reason. This isn't all keeping together because there's some mastermind. It's because there's a whole bunch of other people that are like, we're going to help you out.
And it kind of goes back to, and it's such a refreshing perspective, Doug, right? Because, you know, fortunately, maybe as dads, we're not as subject to it as, like, you know, Instagram dads or Instagram moms. But, like, there is that sense where there's sort of maintain this allure of perfection. But the reality is that that's just a farce, right? That's just a myth.
Yeah.
And, you know, just saying what you just said just now is a refreshing breath of air for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
it's so freeing and then so scary at the same time, right? Because you really don't. Like, you're in that hospital and all of a sudden there's a kid and they tell you a few things. And I don't know about you, but I was completely overwhelmed from the beginning. Yeah. Like, my heart was increased. Like, my wife got a C-section, so I watched that happen. That's a whole crazy experience that I could have never imagined. Right? And then they're like starting to tell you instructions about, okay, well, now you're going to do this, and you're going to go home tomorrow with this thing. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and we're all. You just got to do your best because it's not going to be perfect at all.
Exactly, and I guess during times of adversity, you're like, you know what? Like, these guys did it. Like, everyone's done it since the start of time, man. It's overwhelming, but I'm sure it sounds like there's so much joy, so much happiness. Really, last question. What are you most excited about for the next little bit, next year, next 2 years, next couple years?
So I'm super excited. I tried to get Jonah into swimming lessons. I'm really excited about swimming lessons.
Nice.
Is it all kid stuff that I gotta be excited about?
Anything.
And I'm excited that he can start to ski. And then big excitements is just we have a family-based business. I think that's what I'm most excited about. We've been working really hard during the parental leave.
Nice.
And we're starting to see our business grow, and I'm hoping that it continues so that we get more freedom to have more time with Jonah and do more things outside of, you know, regular work hours. That's what I'm really excited about.
That's the dream.
It's the dream. I don't know if we're going to do it, but I feel like we might.
We'll share a link to the business in the show notes. Doug, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for jumping in the car. Thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for just speaking the mind and just going with it.
Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for the Tesla ride. I can't believe we're already home. It was so gentle. All right.
If you want to see more podcasts, more episodes, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you have a friend or a friend of a friend who is going through the parenting journey, share this with them. We've been getting amazing traction all throughout, so it only goes from people like yourselves who are sharing this podcast throughout.
And it's a really fun experience, and I didn't have to do any prep. I didn't get ready at all. Steven was so nice about being just like calm and don't worry. It's going to be all fine. So, and I don't know how you remember. Do you prep all these questions, or you just make them up as you go?
We just go with the flow, and that's the beauty of this. So thank you so much, Doc. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers.
Have a good one.